there is a fight for territory between the police and this African youth. The African youth feel like they are being targeted. To them, they believe that it is how they look. Some of the police officers there, to give examples, like the way they are dressed, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Now, when I say this, I need to make it very clear that we are not talking about the entire police department. We are talking about few police officers who have got such kind of sentiments. The African kid is a victim of a system. The Australian system, the way it has been built in an environment where there is a proper support system. But the African parent who came as a migrant, they don't fit in that template. And sometimes some of these African kids, when you see, we say they are violent. The society, the system have not helped these kids. So the more they are being, discriminated, they become angry. They are traumas. They are monitored wherever they go. When something is said bad by the media about the African youth, when they walk in the streets, people are spitting at them. People are starting to call names because of what was said by the media. An incident happened, let's say, at Scarborough Beach. They go and say the African youth were doing this. When the police arrive in that space, they find that actually there were about 40 and there were about 7 African youth. Just because one African youth was involved in that, the cameras zoom on the African. The narrative paints the African as the aggressor.
Rick, thanks for joining me on the Becoming a CEO podcast.
Yeah.
Today I wanted to explore this intricate relationship between the police and those being policed, particularly migrant communities. There's been a whole lot of conversation in the news and stuff like that. So I've been hoping that one day I'll have a police officer or a senior police officer, or at least somebody that is a policymaker within the departments to have this conversation with. But thankfully you're here today. Now, when you sent me your PhD thesis, I looked at it, so I had a few things I wanted to discuss. But when you sent me that document, it caught my attention, obviously. It kind of encapsulates most of the stuff I want to talk about. So I had to put away whatever it is I had prepared, and then I focused on it. Okay. So most of the conversation we're going to talk about today will be focused on your findings, some of the responses, and a few stuff around it. And I hope we can cover all of those in whatever, an hour or so. Okay?
Yeah.
First of all, your research was mainly on police, the engagement between the police and the African community. Can you walk me through why you had to go into that research? What led to that work of yours?
I have worked for WA Police for many years, and I have seen the interaction between the African communities, especially the African youth, and the police officers. And I could see some gaps, some discrepancies that were going on. And I felt, when you are just an individual correcting just one incident, there are many incidences that go uncorrected. And if someone doesn't speak about it, someone doesn't document it, then both sides are not going to reconcile. There will be victims who will go unsupported, and there will also be victims whom we call perpetrators or offenders, while they are not, because the other side didn't get it right. And I think I'm well placed to play a role in this.
Yes. Now, you just talked about gaps and discrepancies. So what are the gaps you saw within the system? that you felt, okay, this needed to be addressed?
I mean, there are incidences where African youth, they go as family members in groups, as an example. And somehow they are suspected to be like gang groups.
Are this particular with Africans or generally?
Especially with the African youth. And then you realize that when there is that interaction on why are you here, where are you headed to, it end up leading into, into arrests, into move-on notices. And you could see the African youth, because they've been questioned, they start to ask, why are you questioning me on this? Why are you bothering us? Why are you following us? Why are you doing this? And sometimes I seem to understand both sides, but you could see that somebody needs to help both sides understand so that there could be an alignment and everybody get it right.
Let's paint a scenario, okay?
Yeah.
The research talked about CBD. I don't know if it was focused on the city, and of course we know some, key areas in the city that are a bit, troubled. But let's paint a scenario. A black African kid is seen in a group somewhere in Northbridge, okay, and they are stopped. Could it be that, or could there be a reason for them being stopped? What are those things you think, so as a police, I'll address you as a police officer, though you're not a sworn police officer, but you work within the police department, okay? So as an officer working within the police department, what are the things they look out for to determine, okay, these guys might be up to something or might be up to no good, and then decide to, intervene or act in their capacity rather as police officers?
Now, I really don't know how I can put it across, but let me give you some of the feedback on what my thesis found when I was interviewing the youth, and also what I found when I was interviewing, the police officers. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
There is a DJ who has got a function somewhere in one of the buildings or facilities in the CBD. Here comes the African youth. They parked their vehicles somewhere. Maybe they're about 5 or so. And then they see the police officers parked their cars, maybe 50 meters away. And what do? They take their bottles, smash those bottles towards the police officers.
Okay.
Now, that's what we can call naughty boys or foolishness, the decision just to do that. What does that do? It attracts the police officer. The other day, the African youth, they are coming from uni. Now, they are not only African youth. In that group, there are white kids, there are Middle Eastern, and then there are African youth. They are just coming, to chill after uni. And then the police officers stop the group and begin to say to the African youth, can we search your bags? And then the other youth, they are questioning, why are you talking to my mates? We are just coming from from uni. Why separating the African youth from us? They start to hear the excuses. They are fitting a certain description about something that is going on or they like. And the other guy says, we are just coming from uni. No, can you tell me why you are here? And some of those young people, either they are given, move on notice. Move on notice, in other words, within a certain distance, you are not supposed to be seen within a short period of time. I've heard some youth where they questioned. Some of them, they were put into the, paddy wagon for some minutes, not being charged, not being taken to the watch house. But then somebody opens the car and say, go home, or else I'm going to take more drastic. And you find that there is no justification in some of those arrests. So you can see the contradictions, the two sides, whereby you can realize that something is not right. And this is purely from the research. And like I was talking about some of the African youth, when they see the police officers, they just pass near the police officers, just standing. They begin to raise their hands and says, don't shoot. I am black. So you can see the sentiments of, Black Lives Matter in the USA, that the young people are mindful of what is happening there, and they are intentionally talking to the police officers around this matter. So this kind of interaction, normally it leads into scuffles, into fights, into continuous, attention. And my analysis, to some extent, it seems like there is a fight for territory
Between
the police and this African youth. To simply say, I can walk there in that space as much as I want.
Now, is this particular to young African kids? I call them kids, honestly.
Yeah.
Or this is a race problem, regardless of their age? Because I want to understand, I want to believe, of course, young African kids are a segment of the larger African community. And so if they're experiencing this, would it be okay to say it's been experienced by every other person, regardless of their age?
My research was very specific.
Okay.
To interview the police officers and to interview the African youth. So we are talking about 18 years to around 28 years, whom I was interviewing. So, and if I may have extended to the Chinese, may have extended to the Indians, maybe I may have received maybe the similar story, but I can't account for that. I can only talk about this specific group.
I'll move further a bit. Now, you did say something in your research. One of the key findings was that trust is foundation of effective public institution. I guess the question I had then was, how is trust, or how can trust then be built? Now, if you see what you've just described in your findings is, considerably a lack of trust between these two people. Okay, so these young people do not trust the system, which is the police system, to protect them.
Yeah.
And the police system do not trust these young people because they think they are of no good.
Yep.
How can these two people, or these two people in quotes, build trust? How can the system build trust?
So the key findings, because my research was, one of the key questions was to check the nature of relationship that existed at that time when I was doing the research.
How long ago was this?
I concluded in 2022.
Okay.
Yep, so it's a couple of years backward. Yep. So the nature of relationship was very clear, that it was filled with, it was tense and filled with mistrust. It was absolutely clear that that was the nature of the relationship that was existing at that particular time. Now, there were many factors that came to the surface why there was that mistrust. The scenario that I just gave you on its own, though it looks very strong in the way I described it, it really provides that picture on why there is a mistrust.
Okay.
Because the African youth feel like they are being targeted. When they come from the bus, somebody find a way of coming closer to them, start to ask those questions. And to them, they believe that it is how they look. When you have the opportunity to read my paper, because I was asking some of the police officers there to give examples like, yeah, the way they are dressed, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Then I said to say, what dress are you comfortable with? So it is out there on my thesis as I was interviewing some police officers. And it is some of these, remarks that makes some members of the society feel like these police officers are not legitimately representing us. Now, when I say this, I need to make it very clear that we are not talking about the entire police department. And we are talking about few police officers who have got such kind of sentiments. And I can also say, on the other hand, we have got law-abiding, African youth who will not even want to see police officers and do such kind of, behavior, if I may use that behavior, that end up attracting the attention of the police. So again, here we are talking about the minority groups. If
we even have to add, if I were to add as well, this behavior is not peculiar to young African kids, though your research was focused on young African kids, youths. These behaviors are pretty much behaviors you see everywhere, regardless of their race and their culture.
Of course, speaking as a researcher, normally I'm constrained to stick to what your research was saying. But again, working with the police, I'm more than happy to talk from that angle as well and simply agree with you and say, yes, this is nothing, many white kids, they do that. And again, some of them, if it is the influence of alcohol, you can understand what kind of behavior, especially when we are talking about CBD. CBD, it's a place where there's drinking, it's a place where there's partying, it's a place sometimes where there's drugs, it's a place where everybody feel like they own the space. So the issue of respect for the law enforcement officers is very, very low. And sometimes they challenge some of these police officers, trying to prove to the police officers that they somehow know the laws. Trying to say, you can't do this to me, you can't do this to me. And then the police officers say, okay, I'm going to prove to you that I can do this to you. And some of these police officers, like I said, there are many good police officers. These are fathers, these are uncles, these are mothers, these are parents. They understand that this is a youth behavior. Sometimes they go easy on some of these kids. Sometimes they just try, they do their best to ensure that they make policing good for everyone in this space.
Thank you. I'll take this conversation further a bit now. Another key finding from your research was enforcement alone cannot solve relational issues. Can you talk to me about that?
I think that's where I come into that picture. Because in the police, there are two policing philosophies. There is one which we call the standard policing, whereby it is about enforcing the law. Along the way, in the 1960s, then came the philosophy which we call community policing. Community policing It's a place where police seek to understand. It's a place where police want to work with the community to try to prevent crime before the crime takes place. Now, on the community policing, there are two elements I will talk about around that. One is the traditional one, whereby in the past, the police will do neighborhood watches, you understand your neighbor, can we know what are the crime issues that are taking place in this area? The police will do door-to-door knock, give some pamphlets, crime prevention pamphlets. The police will do the road shows, campaigns around that. The police will have the shop fronts in certain places. By their presence, physical presence, it may cause, those who have been offending to feel like, okay, the police are nearby, we may not commit, crime. Now, that is the traditional, and this is still practiced in the mainstream communities. Now, when we talk about African communities, we are talking about mainly what we can say the vulnerable communities, minority groups, or the culled communities. When you talk to the mainstream person and ask the word trust, if you were to ask a white person, what is trust to you when it comes to police? To them, it's about whether they can stop the crime that is taking place in the streets, whether the police can achieve what they said they will achieve. But when you go to a minority person and you ask the same question, what is trust? That definition changes.
Okay.
That person begins to say, I am not sure whether I can report my problems
To the police.
to the police. So the white person does not have a problem in reporting. He has a problem whether the police are solving the problem. The issue of reporting is not it's a non-starter. They will go and report.
It is a culture. And
Yes, they grew up, they know that is how things should be. But to this African youth or to this someone from cult background, is will I end up being arrested if I start to disclose that I am a victim, of abuse or of crime, of all those.
And sometimes as well, even if this crime is perpetrated by your family member,
Yes.
you're scared. Do I report my dad for this?
Yes.
They're going to take him away.
Yep.
Even though he's done that, you don't want to.
Yep. So when we talk about the issue of trust, that is where the definition changes a little bit. And community policing understands the issue, what we call legitimacy. Now, when we use the word legitimacy in policing, we are saying, do every member of the society trust that the police are for them? And normally that is the key word that every police commissioner understands. Because if his officers or the police agency, some members of the community feel like, we are not represented. They don't represent me. As I see them driving past, they don't represent me. Then that police commissioner, will have to come up with ideas or solutions on saying, I need every community member to trust my agency. I have an obligation. Because if this is not achieved, then my mandate have not been achieved. Because the mandate of the police commissioner is to ensure that everybody feels safe.
I'll pause you there. You talked about representation. I'll be keen to understand, just like trust, what does representation mean for a migrant person and for a typical Aussie?
On which context are you talking about representation?
What representation mean within
The police.
the police?
Now,
So you just talked about I'm not being represented, whether you're being represented or not. So for me, it could be, I want to see, which it's not the case, but just an example. If I see a black man wearing the police uniform, then I feel represented. Perhaps some people could feel it that way, but is that actually being represented, or is there another meaning to that?
no, you are correct there, because when I was talking about that legitimacy, now, how do we then legitimize the agency to this person to say they represent me? Now, one of the strategies that we are finding is on the area of recruitment. That's why you may have attended the police commissioner's morning tea with the African leaders. One line that he never stopped talking about is, I want more of the African members in the police service. Because when you see yourself in that agency, your level of trust goes higher.
I'll give you an example, or just a thought. And of course, comes the question, is that true representation? Now, back during slavery, and that's not to say we're in that era now, you know, and there was a scenario that was created back then where you pick one from among the slave and make them in charge of the slave, all right? You're still a slave. You're just the slave leaders. Now, to some people, you could say, or the police department could say that's being represented. But I guess my question is, and I'm very open, I want to know, is that actually true representation or just ticking the boxes?
Now, what we are talking about is what we call tokenism.
Okay.
Whereby we say, we just have one police officer there. So for us, it is more of a tokenistic to say, here we are. We are, just showcasing that
to meet our employment quota.
We also have this. This brings one of the strong feedback I received from one African community leader when I was interviewing them. And the person was actually talking about representation.
Okay.
And the issue around tokenism. And the person was saying, the police still have a long way to go. Because, yes, you can have few African police officers in the agency. But representation is more than that. It's not just having the foot soldiers. It is when you have
policymakers,
people who are also at all. If it is executive, do we see the same people? Do we see Africans who are there? In the middle management, do we still see Africans there? Because if we have all of them just on the ground, then in that space, you do as you are told, as we say. But if you can have an African or another person of minority group at executive level, then we can say you are bringing in change. Now, that kind of walking away from tokenism to effecting change needs a bold move. Now, there are 3 key areas. One, it's a political decision.
Okay.
If politicians, if the cabinet, if the premier, if the prime minister, whichever jurisdiction, realizing that we need the voice of the minority, not a tokenism at a foot soldier's level, they can enforce, they can push for that. The second person, it is the leader of that agency. In this case, we are talking about the police commissioner. That is a powerful position. And he has got the power to bring that change if he believes in the concept.
Do you think
that should be done? The other one, it could be the community themselves, where they have to work in partnership, where they have to put, the facts on the ground to simply say, this is what we need. Then I think that can come along. Of course, the other areas of change, like we talked about recruitment, training, education, they help people understand. But people trust when they see themselves in every corridor they go to. If you go to the police station in Mirabuka, you find an African police officer, that's okay. But when you go and meet with the executive or certain places and you don't see yourself there, especially on the decision-making part, that's the engine. Because the other one, they are the foot soldiers.
Now, how far away are we from actualizing this? So going from tokenism as a representation to the real representation, which I see that coming from a policymaker. I see that would better work when you have a policymaker or being represented within the policymaking body. Because when a policy is made, the police department is guided by policies and all of other stuff. Are we close to that point where we'll move from tokenism to, being represented at the higher echelon, or we're just there at foot soldiers?
On the interview again, taking you back, I normally want to use the thesis because you can prove. Say, this is what, it was proven by, the recordings, everything, the lecturers saw it, everything was in place. This person, again, is actually the same person who simply said, the Africans, the black Africans, have been in Australia in the 1960s. Of course, the growth kept going. And that person asked me and say, up to today, you check around the jurisdictions across Australia and even most of the European countries, whether you can see a representation at a high level. And then that person was even asking questions and said, you will not find that in the health sector. You will not find that in the army. So the police jurisdictions, not WA police, if I may use that word and be very clear because it was my research. Naturally, police jurisdictions have a long way to go in answering that question you are asking.
Okay, I'll leave that. I'll move on. Now, I guess the next thing I wanted to ask would then be one of your findings. Of course, you talked about community engagement often misses people who are most in need of this engagement. So the last event we were in together was a WA African Commissioners morning breakfast. And it was pretty much community leaders. A large chunk of those people are community leaders. Those ones are easy to reach. You would understand. Because they are community leaders. But oftentimes we tend to miss those that are in their need of these supports, which are those that won't attend those meetings.
Now, the research also finds that when I interviewed the community leaders, the community leaders simply said, and it's also what I found out, This youth whom I was interviewing, I had to be led by some of the youth and say, you need to talk to some of these youth. And these are what I call the disengaged youth. So I talked to them and say, guys, what's going on? Of course, the police are racist, as they put it, having those examples that they were giving me. Some of those statements, you can agree with them. Some of them, you may not agree with them. Then when I talk to them about programs and the support, they simply say, we don't even like the African leaders either.
Okay. That's where the problem is, isn't it?
So I said, what's going on? They said, no, those are the hat wearers. They are just representing themselves. They're not representing our interests. And then when I took that feedback and I looked into the programs, that when I talk to the African leaders says, we go and look for grants to support our African youth. Those guys, they never turn up. We call the community meetings. Those guys never turn up. And when you look into the people who are involved into the programs, these are the university-going students, these are the church-going students, these are those who don't really need that program. They participate, they are volunteering, they are trying to make a contribution. But the target that is needed, even the police, they come up with the programs. Let us have a football game with the African youth. Let us build these relationships. These are strategies of building what? Relationships. They don't turn up.
Could it be that this program, though well-intentioned, are not targeted? Now, you might think, organizing a football program might attract disengaged teen. But is that actually what he needs?
Now, that is where, when you look into my research, it came up with a model, which is called priority.
Sorry, I'll stop you for a bit.
Yep.
Can you stop moving around? Sorry. Keep the camera. You've taken enough photos. Okay. It's the first time he's filming with us, so he doesn't understand what we do.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, sorry.
So where were we?
Oh, good. Well,
The
programs.
programs.
We're talking about programs.
Yes,
Yeah.
the programs. So should I continue?
Yes, please.
Now,
The question I asked was, the department might be organizing a football tournament,
yep.
For these disengaged kids. But are those the needs of this person entirely? This person might need something else. So how then do we decide what is needed by this person and then target those programs to these people?
Now, I think, like I was saying, when you look into the strategies, I came up with, like I said, the model which I call the priority, participation, collaboration, and consultation. They look weird, but I will try to bring a clearer understanding. So the strategy is for somebody to do what we call stakeholder mapping. If you go to the African youth, you have to do a mapping, a helicopter view, who is where and what are their needs, what are their gaps.
Okay.
Then after you've done that mapping, you come up with prioritization. Now, prioritization simply say, these ones fall into this category, this one fall into this category, this one fall into this category. When you talk about participation, participation simple means you are targeting those who are in more need. That is where you put more of your resources. Now, I'll just give you an example. I will rather go to the DJs and say they fall under this category. Because with the DJs, if you don't engage them, there will always be fights. Unfortunately, at some of those CBD events, we lost some few African youth. Because I'll just give you an example. A DJ go and hire a place and say, I'm going to have a function. Okay, you're going to have a function? Yep. I'm going to have a function, 200 people in this place. What will you be doing? I'll be doing this, I'll be doing that. According to the license, enforcement policies, every 20, maybe you should have a security guard who is in this place, Then what does the person do? He sells 400 online. Because he has got the license for 200.
Yeah.
But he's selling 400 tickets online. And then at the gate, he has got the 200 tickets. That is going to be what? To be selling. Then at the end of the day, that night, he has got 3 security with 600 to 700 in a place that is supposed to accommodate 200. Then you can tell what happens there. And again, that demography, that was the moment where he could be actually liaising with the police officer and says, this is what is happening, this is where we are, this is what is happening, so that he may have a good product. But because he wants to have more profit, then you look into the demography of the African youth themselves. I don't want to use the word culture. Because if next door is the Chinese, when the Chinese event finishes, the Chinese, I will just use the example as the Chinese, they will call the Uber, they will call their friends to pick them up, they will get into the bus. In 30 minutes after that event, if it was finishing off at 2 a.m., by 3 o'clock,
You're gone.
They are all gone. When it is the African one, even those without tickets, they are driving there. They are going to assemble, we are going to have about 600 who are inside and 800 who are outside. The moment you say the party is over at 3 or at 2 o'clock, where do they go? They're going outside. They're not going home.
Continue outside.
They're continuing outside. They brought alcohol, some drugs, fighting over girls. Now that's where issues now begin to take a wrong shape. Then you can realize that they are both youth, but the culture, the behavior, how they do things is different. And unfortunately, we now bring some weapons. I've been with the police. I have seen kind of like a graph whereby incidences that used to take place, it used to be like African and other communities. These days, when you look into the incidences that are taking place, I can guarantee you almost 80% is Africans versus Africans. And that is the participation. In other words, when I'm talking about this model, put resources where there is need. Engage these people. What can we do? Put more resources on education. Put resources on programs. Put resources on finding those who are changed, who says we used to do this. We are now exemplaries, that is the place.
I'll pick up from there. Now, you've just given a very important scenario. I thought you were going somewhere I was thinking, but you went the other way, which is fine.
Yeah.
Now, I was still the DJ scenario.
Apologies.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you help?
It's okay.
Is it okay? Okay. Still the DJ scenario, all right? I see the DJ as, in quote, the pastor of that event. And being the DJ has a lot of influence remember, he's the one creating the mood. If the DJ is bad, the event is going to be bad. If the DJ is good, the event will be good. Now, working with the DJ, apart from ensuring that the tickets are not oversold, is to embed into the night some education, I would say, some enlightenment, I would say, because he just got the mic. He's, in quotes, respected. He can enlighten the people in that venue what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, where the exits are, how many police officers have got here, what shouldn't be done. If you do this, these are the consequences. If you do these are the consequences.
In police, we have what we call place, time, and circumstance.
Okay.
I wonder how community engagement will work in an environment when it is alcohol, fueled. Maybe in the beginning, before there's less consumption. But at that moment, the young people at that time, they are after the music. They are after their friends. They are after expression.
But if they know that there is a presence here, the presence of uniformed police officers, though good, oftentimes can create unnecessary tension. Plain police officers, but of course, identified as police officers, can sometimes work. I think can work in that instance. Of course, people are going to drink. It's a party, right? People are going to excessively drink. It's a party. And there's no law saying you cannot drink whatever. Just don't drive while you're drinking, or don't do certain stupid things when you're drunk, all right? But obviously, before the party starts, all of those stuff, there are ground rules that I think the police department can engage. Because, I still go back to the football scenario. These people, I've been part of the community as well, my local community, Nigerian community, and I was the youth secretary at the time. And of course, I dealt with a lot of young people issues. And I hear people come, we had a few programs we've put in place. And the same instance, same scenario, nobody turns up. And so we started talking to young people. What do you want? And guess what? They wanted parties. They wanted. And so we thought, okay, well, you want party? If by organizing party, we can access you. Because remember, the goal is to access these people. And it's not to chase them away. If by organizing these parties, I can get you, good, we can organize a party. However, there's then going to be terms and conditions. These parties are going to be organized in certain, within certain frameworks. That way, you can get what you want. I will get what I want. You're happy, I'm happy. Easy. I'd like to view on that.
Okay. Let's have two scenarios.
Yes, please.
Let's look at soccer tournaments.
Okay.
Which are African.
Okay, you love soccer a lot.
Yeah. Now, we have one key organization like PANSA. I don't know whether you know about PANSA.
I think I've heard of it, yeah.
They have their finals, it will attract close to 3,000. They start their tournaments whereby there's Rwanda versus Botswana, Nigeria versus this. They keep going on it's a FIFA tournament until they get there. Now, those are places whereby people are a little bit sober. If the police can actually say, rather than you guys having, the security, because it's very costly to run that program these days. Because the city council, they want all those certain things. The police district can actually say, we will provide the police officer to patrol, but you will give us space to talk about crime-related issues. Day one, we can talk about domestic violence. Tomorrow, we can talk about, issues around weapons, carrying the weapons. The other day, we can talk about this. And also, if you want, we can even have a place whereby we can check those who come carrying weapons. You save, $30,000. But what do you get when you have the police officers? The police officers are gaining access to the audience. They can provide education. They provide safety. They prevent the fights by bringing machinery to make sure that they can pick anyone with knives. So you have a wonderful, great, event. It's a 50-50. Now, coming to yours, it's a... Maybe I'm an old schooler now to see it working. But
remember, the goal is to access those unreached. Just like preaching the gospel.
Yes.
The way you preach in the city, different the way you preach in the suburbs, and if you even go into the hinterlands, is the strategy will be different.
Now, I will give you an example of what happened with the African DJs. Now, the police started to realize that certain key DJs, their events were being cancelled by the police. So there was a time where the police were cancelling. And guess what? My phone was ringing every day. And I had the first meeting with about 18 DJs because their events were being cancelled.
By the venue or by the police?
By the police, because police, when you talk about license enforcement unit, it's actually the police. So they work with the owners and making sure that issues of compliance. So I had about 18 coming to see me at the police headquarters. I called the license enforcement team and said, there are some issues here. Can we resolve this? And the license officers, they say, yep, we know you. We know that. We know that. We have the examples. You said you had, so that's why I'm having this information to say they sign up for this. Then the reality on the ground is this. The license enforcement officers, they appear unannounced in those events. So you'll hear them saying, I attended your event at 3 a.m. and we had to close it down because it was non-compliant. Now, there was another section of the DJs who simply said, you guys, you are causing our business to be closed. It's because of you. We want to comply. So that's when I wanted to now say, how do we work with those who want to comply to make sure that their businesses are not affected and they are successful? So that's when we started to work on some few proposals that they themselves were saying for us to solve this is ABC. Because there were now issues after that because some of these DJs were now even moving into, hiring a house, Airbnb. They go secretly doing some stuff, plowing some of the girls, and a lot was happening there. When the police come and close that, it was just a mayhem. A lot of abuse, a lot of targeted. Some of these kids, they are not reporting, and you realize that it was now taking it into another level. So I'm more than happy, or the police, I think, any ideas on how community education can take place and that they are sensible in how they do their business, I think that will be good. Because you will find certain places where communities or people in the environment, after the event, people are walking by their homes. Some of them, they stand there urinating on their house. There's a lot was happening here. So there's a lot that is going on whereby communities are actually complaining about some of this. And that's where you find that sometimes the police had enough. And that's where my point is, whereby the police indiscriminately approaches every African young person. What are you doing here? Now, there is a problem there. Because the wrongdoers, they will be caught, and that will just be like 10%.
Yeah.
But the good African youth who have high esteem for the police, when they are caught in that environment, they are just going for a chill. They are not drinking. They are not doing anything wrong. They feel they have the right to be there. They've got friends. And when they are now being stopped, the police, they are trying to prevent what they saw last week. But they are talking to a wrong audience. Who is supposed to be actually having confidence in the police, or the person who had confidence in the police. But if you begin to tell this person, I'm giving you, move on notice, leave this place. Are we building relationship or not? That is where now the challenge is. And that's where, again, on the human rights hat, isn't that person supposed to have the right to be there? But why do you allow another section to pass, but these ones only not restrained? So I may understand where the police are coming from, but there is an issue and it needs to be handled with clarity. That's when we come up with other strategies. What could be other strategies in the CBD? Could we have other programs like the Nuna Patrol, whereby it's a partnership of the African leaders, where they are paid, they are working in conjunction with the police, and able to say, no, these ones are just good kids, these ones leave them alone, this one is that, whereby they are able, it may not be just the leaders, but those who know what is happening. So there are strategies that can still be put in place so that this issue can be resolved. Because if we continue to targeted policing, targeting certain section of the community members, and you can't fully justify just because something happened last weekend, now you are coming with a no-go zone. It doesn't build that relationship.
Now, this is a more direct question to you, Dr. Umile.
Yeah.
Is the African kid, African youth, a problem to Australia or an opportunity?
The African, so now we are talking about a small minority here. The African kid, by the time they have, especially those who are always meeting with the police, now that's the end of their, something happened which is non-policing that led to that young person becoming disengaged. We should check the family upbringing. Who is there supporting that young person? Do they have role models on becoming somebody in life? Are they being inspired? Are they going to school? Are they supported?
Whose problem is that? Is it the police or the family?
So that is why I'm saying the police are on the end.
The receiving end.
Yes, they're on the receiving end. We dropped the ball in the beginning. And sometimes you look into some of these families, you may find one single parent. Maybe she has got 6 kids. She has got 3 jobs. And with those 6 kids, the 14-year-old is already going out. There's no one who is supervising, there's no one who is supporting. That's where sometimes we have problems in trying to help these kids.
So
there have been places where...
Dr. Umile, is the African kid a problem or an opportunity?
The African kid is a victim of a system or a failed system. The Australian system, the way it has been built in an environment where there is a proper support system. But the African parent who came as a migrant, they don't fit in that template. The support system, the economic situation, they are already, disadvantaged. They can't afford certain support for those kids. They are not present parents. Majority of them, they are not present parents. In Australian environment, your parents don't have to be living together.
Yeah.
But by law, they are supporting. The father, even if he has moved away, he's supporting that child. So the support system that is there help the child to find, tutors, have to find support to go to a sporting event. It's not that the African kid doesn't want to play soccer. But for the African kid to be a member of that soccer team, the mother have to raise around $700. So she can't afford to go to the netball ball. They need to pay. They have to have. So what happens? The system is not helping. So the system also makes some of these kids, they end up being racially abused at school. They become targeted. They are bullied. And sometimes some of these African kids, when we say they are violent, they have been made. Nobody is born violent. The society, the system have not helped these kids. So the more they are being, discriminated, they become angry. They are traumas. They are monitored wherever they go. That's why even some of the things I was talking about on my research was the media and the hate crimes. Because when the media picks up something about the African community, one of the things that they found there was a correlation was that when something is said bad by the media about the African youth, when they walk in the streets, people are spitting at them. People are starting to call names because of what was said by the media. And there are certain places whereby an incident happened, let's say at Scarborough Beach. The media, they go and say the African youth were doing this. When the police arrive in that space, they find that actually there were about 40 youth, and there were about 7 African youth. Just because one African youth was involved in that, the cameras zoom on the African. The narrative paints the African as the aggressor, as the most dangerous being. And when they paint it like that, what happens? The consequences are that less African youth are being employed. Sometimes some of the police officers, they start to buy into that and begin to monitor this African kid. The community begin to say names, call names, bad names, go back to where you come from. What does that mean to this young person? Resentment, anger. And when we now talk about fights, when we talk about this is now the manifestation of the anger, of the hate, of the hating that is inside. So, all these things that are taking place, and I should actually go further and say, when these young people are not protected from hate crimes, they say this is what is happening, the police are not taking any step. This is what is happening to us. They are now on their own. They take the matters into their own hands, and what happens? The police arrive. Now, that's when I was talking about the word legitimacy. Because if they feel that even the police are not protecting them, what happens? The wrong guy steps in. And when they steps in, they begin to give them alternative. And that alternative is not right. That's why you may now find the African kids are now selling drugs. Who is the person behind all that? The African kids are now having gym membership. Who is giving them all those kind of things? What is happening there? Because they saw them vulnerable and they sell the ideology. They are idealized to say the system hates you. No one is employing you. Now, these kids, they spend during the day, they are asleep, they are somewhere. They are trying to become DJs, they are trying to sing. You listen to some of the language that they are in those, lyrics. Totally anti-police, totally anti the community, and they are hurting. So while it is easy for the police commissioner to simply say, once they do the crime, lock them. Once they do the crime, lock them. I am actually proud of the current commissioner, because as what we have seen, he is doing his best to listen. He is doing his best to engage. But like I said, it's easy to engage those who are already people like yourself, community leaders. So my research simply said, yes, the community leaders, they are happy that they are meeting with the police. They don't have any problem. But both the police and the community leaders are not accessing this group.
Cool. No, you've really touched on important conversations. I want to go back or further into that conversation. Now, the African kid is a victim of the system. I want to, and you said a few things around how and why that is the case. Of course, moving from wherever we've come from, the system we've come into is typically not the kind of system we've been raised. And for many young parents coming into here as well, it becomes pretty much an automatic struggle. You try to figure life out, raising kids by yourself if you're a single parent and things like that. There is this not recent, it's been happening, but I think because now I know a few people that have gone through it, it's becoming recent to me. A youth in detention. All right. So a lot of young people, of course, youth in detention and obviously relating to their interaction with the opposite sex. So which is, for the young men, it's a relationship with ladies and how they've pretty much entangled themselves with things they shouldn't have entangled themselves with. But particularly is this issue around, you said I did it, but I didn't do it. But then it's now your word against my word. So typical example, you go to the club, party, we all get drunk, we all wanted sex, in quotes, or it looked as though we wanted it, and then we finish having it, and then somebody comes up the following day, oh, I was raped. Oh, I was touched in a way that I didn't feel comfortable with. How do we manage consent as migrant people? Now, typically, of course, as us here, the way I will interact with an African lady is so different from the way I will interact with a non-African lady. Because for us, we can play and gist, and going back to what we talked about reporting, all right? It's not something like, I know this guy, we just let it go. But for a non-African person, everything has to be reported. Yep. Sometimes from malicious intentions.
I think I need to say the issue of consent is not an African thing only.
Okay.
Yes, it's across
board.
Across the board. Even the issues around domestic violence, it's across all communities, and it's not like mainly white or this, across. That is where it is. But I will just comment on the area of education. That we have cultural barriers. If I were to ask you a question, if at what age or what stage should an African parent, if he is a father, talk to his son about sex? Rarely.
That conversation never comes up.
That conversation rarely come up. Yeah. So, if it is a white family, they will openly talk about it.
Someone even said to me, like, as soon as the child becomes get into puberty, 13, 14, they get contraceptive for the child because you're going to have sex, whatever I say or not, you're going to have sex. So let's get this done.
Yeah. So that's where the barriers are. And that's where the challenges are. Because the African parent believes that somebody will educate my son. The African parent believes that at school they will talk about this. But you can't delegate your responsibility. And that is where African boys, they fall victims, because nobody intentionally addressed them. I'm a pastor. Rarely do we talk about this. Unless at a youth meeting where you bring someone to say, you guys, you understand, to talk to your mates. But rarely do parents call their sons and say, let's talk about sex. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the laws. Let's talk about that. They can bring the resources. They can say, okay, can you guys watch this? Can you do this? Can you do this? But it's a gap that is there. And also, I just want to talk a little bit around the justice system. Another gap which I found, the gap is that when a 19-year-old commits crime, and there's a court case or something of that nature, he's not going to tell his parents. That's where we found most of the African kids, they don't tell their parents. Or the parent only finds out 2 days before the court or something like that. While when you go to the white person, they will disclose, this is what I've done. Before the court case takes place, the parent have already engaged the lawyers. The parent have already taken that child for rehabilitation, kind of like you took the person to counseling. You've already done that. When they appear before the judge,
Prepared.
they are already prepared, but they have got the leniency where they can say, you know what, our child is already changed because he's going to the counselor. So there are certain mitigating factors that will cause the sentence to be reduced because the child, the person, the perpetrator have already taken some steps. If it was alcohol related, he's already gone to this counselor, he's already done that. The African child have not received that support. Sometimes they even appear without a lawyer. The parent is just arriving there, he have no idea what is happening. They only heard by a friend that actually your child today. So they also just arrive. Then what happens? The white kid, based on these mitigating factors that have been put in place, the judge can actually say, I want you to go for the community center. I'm taking you to community sentencing. You go and do some service in certain areas because I'm aware that you are on the mend. But to the African kid,
There's no
nothing that has been done. So you face the maximum. You go for a jail. So then you end up saying, oh, but they committed the same thing. This one seemed like, the judge has been lenient. But they are also using their own template to determine how they should come to that conclusion. So if you didn't prepare yourself, sometimes they come to the last minute where they are given what we call those who are just like the legal aid. Some of this legal aid, they are just students who just graduated, because they are just trying to. So you just meet so you find that the whole thing, the argument and everything is not on.
Education is this thing you just said, you see, I'm laughing,
Yeah.
but also I'm saddened
Yeah.
because you just painted 3 scenarios that I have had to encounter personally with people I know.
Yeah.
One was a friend. He's not in this country anymore. He committed it because every evidence pointed that he did it.
Yeah.
But then, by the time he called, this was when I was still the youth secretary. By the time he called to start asking for help, it was too late.
Yeah.
It was too late. Sentencing was already scheduled. It was a couple of days. Was asking for letters from this, from letters from that. If I knew any lawyer, it's like, when did this start? Apparently, this has been on for 2 years.
Yeah.
But he was sentenced 4 years. He went in for it, and afterwards, he was sent back home. And at the time, I could only remember it was one, similar to community aid, community legal services. That was what he could get. And I just referred him to someone I knew that worked with one of the legal services, and that was it. And same thing, second person, the same thing.
Yeah.
We only got to know when they're about being sentenced.
Yeah.
And at that point, there's
too late.
really nothing you can do.
If you could have disclosed to the family, maybe the family could have come up with ways. Looking for some, okay, you go for counseling, you do this, so that by the time you appear, there could be some leniency.
What are people like yourself doing to ensure this information, this knowledge is disseminated? Because you seem to have a whole lot of knowledge, lived experience, I would say, but not many people have access to this. And I get this cause now because I've worked in the community. Because of the job I do, I've encountered many people, a lot of them young people as well. And sometimes for reasons they might not know, for some of the wrong choices or some wrong decisions they've had to get themselves into, they've gotten into trouble. And so they'll call, oh, do you know this? Do you know that? Do you know that? What are you doing in your capacity to enlighten and provide support?
I think what I can say is, when there's more research, like we are talking about research, I think these are some of the contributions that we can work on. But I have seen the Aboriginal situation. With the Aboriginal, they have what they call Aboriginal legal services.
Yeah. And it's very funded.
It's something where I once said, the government need to be very bold by establishing something of that nature for the vulnerable communities, the minority groups. Otherwise, we are going to have all these people, young people, even if it was supposed to be a minor incident, it end up having that person having a criminal record. And the criminal record, it becomes a lifetime tag that costs you. So it is something whereby the politicians, and not only the politicians, the community leaders need to lobby the government for that kind. It's in Australia, the premier can just, even if the premier can just give 1 million, that will go a long way. Because in that space, you have two parts of it. One is the community education. To simply say, the entry, what I can call entry to justice. Before you meet with the lawyer, you need the understanding, how to enter. So they will provide that education. They will also then help them with the lawyers. Because like I told you, if a single parent with 6 kids and a 19-year-old or 21-year-old have committed crime, where do you think she will find money? So we are talking about justice. When we talk about justice, we are saying this person needs to have a legal representation so that justice may, But if it is only one-sided, the other one knows the law, the other one doesn't know the law. Okay. We can't call that justice.
So whose fault then is it?
The entry to justice, it cannot only. So what the community needs to do is to lobby the government to create a CALD or an African legal assistance or system that is in place.
Does there have to be an African legal system? There are several legal systems and legal services currently. I guess my understanding is, in fact, many of them are underfunded. And you just said some of them are even students, lawyers that are just getting into understanding the law and how to advise you, even if you go to them for support. Does there have to be an African legal service? Can the current legal system, legal services in place, not act in that capacity?
The reason why I'm saying CALD or the minority group or that part is because when you look into the community legal services, let's talk an example like northern suburbs, you find that very, less funded. Maybe there are just few lawyers. Some of them, they try to do it on pro bono. And some of them will find that they don't have a criminal lawyer. They only have lawyers that deal with this. So because there are different types of lawyers that are there.
Yeah.
So even when you get there, you find that the queue is very long. They can tell you that we are not able to help you.
Yeah.
You put in an application or an interest, we are not able to help you. Because, so they prioritize. So if we can say, there are those legal services, they are just supporting 1%. 99%, they are left to themselves. They are not also into community education. So if you have these CALD communities funded, they can actually say, okay, there is Botswana independence. Can you guys, we want to come and provide these pamphlets. We want to come and provide you with this education because they are properly funded. They go to other key communities within African or Indian or Chinese or all other communities that are out there and provide proper education, because that's what we can say justice has been served. But if it's just some of them, it's a good intention, but they are not funded.
What's the role of the media in disseminating this education? So platforms like this, of course, I believe in the pamphlets and the other stuff, but I also do believe, because I'm a media person, I believe in the power of the media. I believe in the power of distribution via, of course, social media and all of it, because that's also where some of these young people are. They're not always going to be at those functions where those pamphlets or those educations, those talks are going to happen. But they're on their phone, they're on social media, they're on TikTok, and what have you. How can we utilize these platforms for disseminating information?
I think there is no young person who at this moment think that they will need a lawyer.
No, take that again. I'm lost. Take it again.
So in other words, they will only think about the lawyer when they have committed a crime.
Okay.
So when it comes to the education around that, they are not proactive to try to understand the legal system and everything. But if you educate the parent and say, make sure you talk to your kids, that when this thing happened, this thing happened, I believe the parent, when they are empowered, they will find the right time to also talk to these kids.
Okay.
Yeah. But I am not ruling out finding a way of talking to these kids themselves directly. The only thing is that in their minds, do they think that they need that kind of information? That's why I say some of them, you find that they don't think they need it.
Maybe it's not being presented in the way.
If there is a way of presenting it in a way.
I'm happy to have that conversation.
Now, media, I have to tell you, media plays a powerful role in the community.
Yeah.
And I think it is up to you guys to also research on which one is effective to which demography, which platforms, and how should it be put across. You know, there was a day in which I brought some kids from secondary school. They came to do placement. And I was doing, you know, these days I'm focusing on education, community education. And then I was saying, you know, we want to reach out to schools with some community education. With us, we write kind of legal language. And I said to the kids,
Bring it down, break it down.
is there a language in which your friends
understand?
will try to understand? No, that's where now the problem is, because if you water down the whole thing, then the police have to answer. But at the same time, try to do it correct. It may not be understood by the other side, because so that's where now
I certainly believe there's a way to not water down. Water down might not be the right word, but there's a way to translate a King James version to a common English version.
English,
yes. You know, like a standard English. So the same message, different translations.
I think with the chat GTP these days, you can find the right language.
You can break it down, because I do believe there is a breakdown in communication somewhere, all right, and the message, whilst it's well intended, it might not be hitting the target. And so it's then, how do we translate this message from the big legal grammar? Because reading legal documents are not fun. You know, it's not fun to read legal documents. You just, man, can you break this down in the I do it. Sometimes I get, and I'll put it into, can you interpret whatever this jargon is, and then interpret it for me. And that's a way for myself to consume it.
I also just say,
yeah,
I did reach out to the African Lawyers Society, and I think there is an appetite. Of course, they are very busy individuals. They are chasing their professional, career lives. But some of them started to say, you know what, we want to play a role in this. Because some of them, they were actually saying, we see it through the body-worn cameras. That it's just that youth who are just stupid, that they landed themselves into this problem. And they feel the African youth just need that support of education.
Yeah.
And they were saying, if they don't trust the police, we can also step in and say, this is what the law says. Because sometimes they want to challenge the police, thinking that they know the law. Then they say, no, they were actually doing the wrong thing, the African youth thinking that they know. So that's another avenue of saying, if we have these volunteers who can work in this on certain times, they can be involved into community education, targeting certain section of our community members, culturally putting it in an appropriate way, in a language, in a certain way. There are other avenues that are there. It doesn't have to be only the legal services centers that are out there. We can have
I agree.
So
I agree. I'll be happy to have that conversation. How we can translate that message and make it easier for people to consume in bite sizes. Because young people are not reading legal documents, unfortunately so. But also, we can't say because they don't read it and then we'll bring the full wrath of the law upon them. There has to be a way to pass that message. But anyway, I'll have to have that conversation. My final question then will be to you, Dr. Umile. Now, if the police commissioner, the premier, African leaders, yourself, parents and teachers and young people are sitting at the same table, so we had everybody here tonight, what's the one conversation you believe we've been avoiding that we should start having? So the commissioner is here. Yourself, you're here. The premier is here. We've got parents. We've got teachers. We've got kids, these young people. What is that one conversation you think we've avoided for so long and we need to start having?
I think the missing piece in the puzzle, and that should be the biggest piece in that puzzle is the youth themselves.
Okay.
I think we do programs for the youth. We talk about what we think is good for the youth. But the youth are not in the center. I think it is time that we must trust the youth. Because if you trust the youth to have a voice, they will be innovative. They will come up with strategies and ways which ourselves will freak out and say, this is impossible. This is not gonna work. But if we can give them an opportunity, they can turn around the situation themselves. The answer lies with the youth. The answer is not on the next policy. The answer is not another organization to run the program for the youth. The answer is not having the leaders who are here and say, tell us the problem. The answer is not the parents. The answer is if all of us, even the parents and the police, can simply say, we know that even us, we are not perfect. All of us on this table, we are not perfect. But you young people, we trust you that you can reflect and come up with your own ideas. We are happy to resource you. I tell you, the young people themselves, they know what the problem is, because there are certain problems which we don't know.
Yeah.
They know the root cause.
Yeah.
And they know how that
fix
can
it.
be resolved. And I think that's because every one of us, in many places, we are talking about the youth.
Some people.
But are we creating space? Because I believe the leadership should not be how much you have authority or power. It should be about how much you are inspiring this young generation to come up with solutions. I think we are not inspiring enough. I think we are tightening the laws, and it's not helping. And we are paying the price.
Thank you so much, Dr. Umile Gwakadu, for joining me on the BACEO Podcast.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.